Amen. He is Jesus Christ, our Lord. Make it personal. Amen. Amen. Forgot to mention in my comments, we also spoke with Brother Carl yesterday, and Sister Vicky is moving toward recovery. Some days are better than others, but the Lord is still good, and she's moving forward. So we need to continue to pray for her healing. Amen? Amen. Amen. We have declared that we're not going to forget folk because we don't see them here. Amen. We all going to make this journey. I don't know if y'all are hearing this reoccurring theme, but it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. We're not leaving the wounded by the roadside. We'll circle around again. That was one thing I used to hate about running in the military. Because the folk that fell out of the run that would be way behind, they would always circle the entire unit around, go back and pick them up and come back. Now, I always hated that because I was a good runner, so I was always near the front. But what it taught me was the weakest member of the unit was just as important as I was. The weakest member of our church is just as important as we are. Whether spiritually weak, financially weak, whatever. They're just as important. So we all going to make this trip. Told y'all, if I don't see you, I see now at Mount Zion, there's still people at Mount Zion who was there the entire time I was there, and I still don't know them. It's not like that here. That's right. So if I don't see you, I'm going to call you. Not trying to get in your business, we're trying to check on you. And if you choose not to answer, I have a church directory and a GPS. Amen. Amen. Come on, y'all. We leave folk on the side of the road for dead and keep moving, thinking our mission is more important. And then when we get to where it is we're going, there's nobody there but us. I think it's Zig Ziglar said any leader who doesn't have someone following him is simply out for a walk. We all got to get there. As the Lord knows, I don't want to stand before God and he start calling off names from Miles Chapel that I forgot, that I let fall by the wayside, that I didn't go check up on. No. Amen? So we're going to do this together. Let's turn in our words to Mark. Mark 9. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. Mark 9, beginning at the second verse, says, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain. I'm reading out of the NIV. Where they were alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. There appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. 6th verse said, he did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and enveloped them, and a voice came from the cloud saying, this is my son, whom I love. Listen to him. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this preaching opportunity. We ask now, oh God, that you be glorified in this preaching hour, that your people would get the message that you have prepared for them, that you would touch their ears, that they would be receptive to the words that fall from my lips, touch their hearts, that it would fall on good ground, God, that it would show forth fruit in their lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. We want to talk this morning from a thought, how to handle where God is taking you. How to handle where God is taking you. It was the 13th century Italian priest, Thomas Aquinas, who was known for his theory concerning the 5 proofs of God's existence. Thomas Aquinas and his espousal of these proofs, affirming and validating the existence of God, stated that it was impossible for humanity to know God's essence, and that we could only know God, or best know God, through his effects. Aquinas stated that there were 2 major proofs within the 5 that affirm and attest to the existence of God. Stay with me through here because I'm going somewhere. The first proof is the proof of motion. The proof of motion. It is undeniable to humans that things move. Things have motion. You agree with that? Well, since you agree with that, then it is incontestable that things move. And Aquinas suggests that nothing can move by itself. So since nothing can cause itself to move initially, there had to be a first mover. He borrows from the teachings of Aristotle, and who talked about the unmoved mover. And so the very proof of motion, that there had to be a first cause of motion, is proof in Aquinas' estimation of the existence of God. The second proof that he talks about is the proof of cause. He says nothing can cause itself. Nothing can create itself. So since nothing can cause itself, there had to be a first cause. And that first cause could not have a cause. Because though we have a cause, we could not cause ourselves. So the premier cause, the first cause, if you will, could not have a cause. And that first cause that did not have something to cause it has to be God. God is the one who causes. He's the first cause because nothing caused him. He is pre-existent and predates any and all causes. He creates cause and causes all other things to be. And so these proofs of motion and cause, or causation, as Aquinas says it, affirm the existence of God. These proofs are evident in the lives of God's saints today. He causes us to become. Become what, preacher? I'm glad you asked that question. To become that person that we in no wise could have become without his leading, his covering, and his keeping. And he does it by causing motion to be present in our lives. He causes us to move out of our comfort zones to experience and become those things that he has designed specifically for us to become before the foundations of the earth. Nowhere is this philosophical point of preachment demonstrated more clearly than in our text this morning. At the time of our text, Jesus is still engaged in motion. He's still engaged in causation. John says it this way, John 1:1-3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was, he was in the beginning with God. all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. At the time of our text, he has moved from causation in nature to causation in the lives of Peter, James, and John. Mark tells us that Jesus, took Peter, James, and John up on a high mountain. This place, perhaps 12 miles northeast of Caesarea Philippi, the place where Mount Hermon, some 9,200 feet above sea level. He has taken them there. He has caused them to leave the valley where they are and to go up. He took them there. He has put some things in motion for Peter, James, and John because he took them there. He took them from the base of the mountain to the top. It's causation and motion because he took them. When I think about the places that God has taken me, I have to give him a reflective praise. Can anybody testify that he took me out of my mess? He took me out of some things. But if I had to get out of my mess on my own, I'd still be in it. But because he loved me, he took me out of some things. He took me out of the crazy relationship. He took me out of the bad job atmosphere. He took me out of the projects. He took me out of a life of molestation. He took me out of a life of crime. He took me. When I look back over my life, I can testify that he's taken me out of some things. And there may be 12 or 13 of you who are willing to wave your hand and bless the Lord because he took you out of some things. That's why every now and then you need to look back over your spiritual shoulder and see where he's brought you from. Ezekiel said it this way: the Spirit of the Lord was upon me and carried me out into a valley of dry bones. I wouldn't have gotten there on my own, but because he took me, I could get there. I wouldn't have gotten there by myself, by my own devices. Anybody ever found yourself in a place that you could not have gotten, that your best planning wouldn't have worked out? You got there because he took you. So he's taken them to a high mountain. Yes, sir. He elevated them from the foot to the pinnacle, from the bottom to the top. Yeah. He took them. Is there anybody who can look at your life and say, I never thought I'd be where I am right now? Amen. Maybe you're a witness that only by God's grace, because he's taken you. I never thought I'd live where I live. I never thought I'd drive what I drive. Never thought I'd have this kind of peace. Never thought I'd work in this environment because I really don't qualify for the job. But because he took me. It's nothing that I did. It was nothing, no way I could work it out. My circle of influential friends had lost its power, but because he took us, yes, we find ourselves in some places that we never thought we would make, never thought that we would see, never thought that we would experience. I got to stop right there and share with you that on the night that President Obama was elected president for the first time, I sat in my living room holding my daughter's hand and cried. Why? Because I knew it would never happen if we had to make it happen. But whether you realize it or not, the hand of God was involved in that. He's taken us from the outhouse to the poorhouse, now in the White House. You better bless the name of the Lord because he took us. If I'd pass this mic around these couple of front rows here, you could hear some testimonies of how they used to have to go down the pass and maybe carry a lantern at night when they had to use the bathroom if there was not a pot in the house. See, some of us don't know anything about that because everything, all we can remember is walking in the bathroom, turning on the faucet, water running, no problem. We don't have to go to a spring. He has taken us. He's brought us, and he's not finished. He's carrying us somewhere. That's why I get excited because, yes, he took us. He's brought us, but it's not in past tense. He still has a plan. Come here, Jeremiah 29:11. He has a plan for your life and for your life and for my life, and he's taking us somewhere. See, we don't realize it. We think sometimes that we're in control. We think we got it going on, but what we don't understand is we are really just along for the ride because he's taking us. wants to take you somewhere. If I would borrow scripture from Paul, it says, but it's written, eyes have not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it, check this out, nor has it entered into your heart the thing that God has prepared for those who love him. Hasn't entered. You can't even conceive it in your mind, the thing that he has for us.
Come on now. Come on.
Because he wants to take us somewhere. But the truth of the matter is, Peter couldn't handle where God had taken him. A lot of us are asking God for elevation. We're asking God for promotion. And the question is not whether God can promote us, whether God can elevate us, but the question is whether we can handle the promotion of when he promotes us. How will you respond? God will control the cause, but because we are free will agents, he will not control your response. He will not control your response. That's why we have seen so many great leaders in the church fall.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because he has taken them somewhere. But somewhere along the line, their response was wrong and they have fallen. Yeah. Don't leave them on the side of the road dead. Because if your stuff was exposed, what would people say?
Come on.
I'm going to move. That's another sermon. I'm going to move. He will not control your response. We have the choice of how we respond.
Yes, sir.
And it's my premise today that Peter could not handle it. He wasn't ready for the elevation. God wants to take us, but doesn't want us to mess it up like Peter. And as I begin to share this message, I hope you'll understand the things that we must do differently than Peter.
Amen.
The first thing is we must have the revelation that some people must be eliminated. Some people must be eliminated. Now, look, if you go back in the latter part of the 8th chapter, everybody was there. All the disciples were there. Everybody was there. Jesus was there with them. But when he gets ready to move, he takes 3. Now, you look at this and you say, what are you doing, Jesus? Isn't this partiality? Isn't this unfair? Won't you cause a sibling rivalry? Won't you cause them to be envious and jealous? Why Peter, James, and John and not everybody else? And God says, when I get ready to elevate you, hear this, the higher you go, the thinner the air. And if you have the wrong folk connected with you, because the air is thin, when they see your elevation, they get excited and suck up your air. Okay, let me put it to you this way. You ever had a leech? No, I'm not talking about the what is it, the animal, whatever that is. No, I'm talking about a person. Just look at me. Don't know yet. So look at me. I see you. I see you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That just suck the life out of you. Yeah. Never give, never pour into, just take. You've got to know who's in your life and who sent them. Because whoever's in your life came from one of 2 sources. Either God sent them or the devil sent them. And if you're not careful, you're going to mistake the folk that the devil sent for God sent and allow them to hang around. And what they will do is suck the life out of you, suck your vitality out of you. And their only mission is to keep you from getting to that expected end that Jeremiah talked about. You can't have the wrong folk connected to you when the air is thin. You got to have folk who are willing to carry their own oxygen tank, who don't suck the life out of you. Everybody can't go with you. Doesn't mean you don't love them. Doesn't mean God doesn't love them. Doesn't mean that they're not anointed. None of that. It just means they can't go with you at this time. That's why the relationship had to end. He had no oxygen tank, so he couldn't be connected to you in this season. You've got to understand that we are trying to make permanent too many things that God intended to be See, I've been here 2 Sundays, and y'all already know I need some help. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm thinking about this thin air thing. And I began to think of a city in Colorado called Denver. Denver is an elevated place. Matter of fact, it's 5,280 feet above sea level. Football and baseball teams hate going to Denver. The Atlanta Braves don't like going to Denver. The baseball stadium there is called Coors Field. And opposing pitchers hate to go to Denver because of its elevation. In Coors Field, when the pitcher throws the pitch, the batter does not have to hit as hard, and the ball will travel faster and farther. That's why the enemy hates going to altitudes, because things are accelerated, things go faster, and they go farther. God is trying to take us far, and he's trying to take us fast, but everybody can't handle that. Everybody can't handle going far and going fast, and some folk will get motion sickness. You've got to understand now, they have a football stadium called Mile High Stadium. That's where the Broncos play, and opposition doesn't like to go into Mile High Stadium because they're playing at a high altitude, and because they're playing at a high altitude, it's harder to breathe. You can't move like you normally would. You give out of energy quicker, and so what you have to understand is when the enemy comes at you and you're at a high altitude, you can give it to God and go higher, because the enemy can't handle high altitude. There's a story told that there is a plane leaving from Ghana, Africa, headed to the United States, and somehow a 12-foot cobra ends up in one of the bags. And as they're flying, the cobra works his way out of the bag and works his way into the cabin, and now the folk in the cabin are losing their minds. They're running all over the place. We got a snake on board. We're going to die. What we going to do? And the pilot comes on the loudspeaker very calmly. He says, ma'am, sirs, I need you to take your seats. I need you to buckle up. He said, I understand that we have a snake on board, but it's not a problem, because all I have to do is gain altitude, because snakes can't operate in high altitude. There's some of us in here who have snakes in our lives. Maybe you work with the snake. Maybe a snake lives in your house. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to go to their level, but you just go higher. Take it to another level. Got to realize there's some people who must be eliminated.
Yes, sir.
But secondly, you have to have recognition of what can be done, what cannot be done by another person. 9:2 says, and he led them up a high mountain, apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. In the Greek, that word is metamorphe. That's where we get the word metamorphosis from, meaning a literal outward change. He shows them his transcendent body. He shows them his glorious body. The body that he would have in the millennial kingdom, he shows them. He shows them on Mount Hermon what he would look like eschatologically. He shows them in Mark what he would look like at the end of Revelations. What did they see? They saw his raiment, and Mark tells us it was dazzling white, far whiter than any earthly bleach could ever bleach them. The New Century Version says his clothes became shining white, whiter than any person could make them. NASV says his garments became radiant and exceedingly white, as no launderer on earth could whiten them. New King James says his clothes became shining, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth could whiten them. God says, I will take you to a place and show you something that is so glorious, that is so luminous, that you've never seen it before, and you'll have to understand that man cannot do it. I'll show you that I can bring water out of a rock. I'll show you that I can send manna from heaven and feed you when you're hungry. I'll show you that I can raise Jairus' daughter. I'll show you that I can feed the multitude with 2 fish and 5 breads. I'll show you how gas can be $4 a gallon and you've been laid off and your unemployment has run out and you still got a house. You still got lights. You're still rolling because he wants to show you some things. Allowed you to get there so he can show you some things. And you got to admit, some of us find ourselves, and if you're not there today, you've been there, find ourselves in a place that we have to admit that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, I'm talking about when you called your friends and they didn't answer the phone. I'm talking about when you went to the teller and you checked your balance and it didn't have enough in there. I'm talking about when you looked at the money and the bills and you had more bills than you had money and you had about 30 days left in the month. Yeah, y'all missed that one.
Yes, sir.
But you're still here.
Yes, sir.
You're still here.
Still here.
Still here. You know, we were on the way to church. We were just sharing with our daughter. We bought our Expedition in 1998, November 98. We used to fill up that Expedition for $32. $32. Now I can't fill up my Honda for $32. And sometimes we get caught looking at the price of gas. But what I also had to realize was at that point, we had 2 cars. Gas is almost $4 a gallon now, and we got 3 cars.
Come on, preacher.
So how can I complain about the price of gas if I'm still buying vehicles? Deep. Some of us were driving around in hoopties before hoopties were cool. And now we're in Benzes and Jaguars and Hondas and Toyotas and all of the finer things in life, and God is still keeping us, and we want to get stuck on what's going on wrong. We've got to flip the switch and look at what's happening right. God's still showing up. God is still keeping. God is still blessing. God is still pouring out. Matter of fact, they told you that your retirement portfolio wouldn't get you this far. You still got money in the bank. You got to have revelation that some people must be eliminated. You got to recognize what can't be done by another person. But you have to face the realization that your emotions must be managed properly. It's in verse 5. It says, Peter says to Jesus, Rabbi, Peter is just, he's the first one to jump in. Sometimes when you're the first one to jump in, you jump wrong. But I'd rather have a Peter jumping wrong than somebody who ain't going to jump at all.
All right.
Just thought I'd help Peter out right there before y'all throw Peter away. Peter says to Jesus, Rabbi, it's good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Then the 6th verse said he did not know what to say. They were so frightened. The text says they were afraid. The word afraid comes in the Greek as ekphobos, which means phobia or fear, to be frightened out of one's wits. Anybody ever just been so afraid that you just said something crazy? Don't raise your hand. These are rhetorical questions. I don't want you to answer these. Just the wrong thing came out. That's not what you meant. It wasn't even what you had in your heart, but that's what came out. Just scared. Just scared. And some of us have fears. When God elevated Peter, he had a fear. He had a phobia that would later become known as acrophobia, an extreme or irrational fear of heights, especially when one is not that high. What you have to understand is when God begins to elevate us, we don't have to get scared. We don't have to be afraid. Some of us have a fear, not of the height, but some of us have the fear of falling. Some of us can't handle where God is trying to take us because we have a fear either of heights or the fear of falling where he takes us. But why is it we're afraid on a mountain when Jesus is the one who took us there? That's why some of us will never see all of the elevation that God has for us because we're scared of heights. We're scared of starting the company. We're scared of relocating to that new area. We're just scared. But whenever God is trying to take you to a higher height, your response needs to be, any way you bless me, Lord, I'll be satisfied. I don't understand it. I don't know where you're going with this, but if this is where you lead me, God, I'm going to follow your lead. I told you he'll take you far. I told you he'll take you fast. And another fear that comes with it that some of us possess is the fear of flying. And the problem with a fear of flying is we make the same journeys driving that we could make flying. But at the end of the journey, we are tired and beaten down because we've been on the road for 8 hours because we have a fear of flying. Some of us are scared that God is moving us too fast. God is taking us too fast, and we would rather drive on the journey. Well, yeah, you may get there, but you'll be behind schedule. You'll be tired and beaten up.
All right, preacher.
Can't be afraid. But not only was he afraid, but Peter was foolish. Not only was he fearful, but here he regulates Jesus to the role of a lawgiver and a prophet. The reason he can't take some of us where he wants to take us is because we start acting foolish when we get there. That's why some of us can't get the promotion, why some of us can't get the new house, some of us can't get the new car, because he understands that our personality will change when he blesses us. I'm reminded that we have to know how to act when he elevates us. Come on, football fans, I need you to help me out right through here. There's a young man down at Florida State University by the name of Jameis Winston. He is a phenomenal talent. Quarterback for the BCS champion Florida State Seminoles. This boy is bad, y'all. I'm talking about he plays 2 college sports, football and baseball. Awesome skill set. But ever since he's been in the national eye, he's done a series of things to make you question his judgment. He's been accused of rape, which no charges have been brought yet, but the investigation has been reopened. He's accused of stealing drinks from Burger King. Come on now. And most recently, he was convicted of shoplifting $30 worth of crab legs from the grocery store. When you get elevated, you can't start acting foolish. You got to understand that you've been elevated and now the eye is on you. God wants to use you as a commercial. So when he elevates you, you have to be careful how you act. And that's one thing that I love about Barack Hussein Obama II. All this man has gone through, after being a teacher in the classroom to the highest position in the most powerful country in the world, he suffered at the hands of his enemies. He's been ridiculed. He's been disrespected. He's had to fight twice as hard to get half as much. And after all that, he keeps on smiling and moving forward. But I believe it's because he understands that no matter how high he gets, he's still looking up to God. The Bible says it this way: I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence comes my help. All my help comes from the Lord. When you realize that your help comes from the Lord, then you understand that everything you go through, everything you deal with is simply there to push you to God. And when you turn to God, God will make a way.
Yes, sir.
Revelation that some people must be eliminated. Recognize what can't be done by another person. Come to the realization that your emotions must be managed properly. And let me back up and put a nickel in the meter right there. And if your emotions get the best of you, learn to be like David, repent quickly, and move forward.
All right.
Repent quickly and move forward. We're human. We make mistakes. We fall, but we don't have the Weeble mentality. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. No, we wobble and fall. But we serve a God who can get us back up.
Amen.
manage emotions properly. But fourthly, must have the revolution to get the right perspective. It's Peter acting foolishly after being taken to a high place. And what you have to understand is when he's doing this, a cloud appears and a voice speaks saying, "This is my son." He says, "This is my son whom I love. Listen to him." New King James Version says, "Hear him." God says we have created ambiguity with where I'm trying to take you, because our concept of elevation and promotion has been skewed. We began to think that a raise is elevation. The new job is elevation. The new house is elevation. But the whole crux of why he took you to the high mountain is not the new job. It is not the money. It is not the car. It's not the house. But it is there in verse 7. The level is not about cash, the cars, the clothes, or the castles. The next level is about, can you hear? A lot of us have the cars, we have the cash, we have the clothes, we have the castles, but we cannot hear. I used to pray. I'm going to open up here. I used to pray for money. I used to pray for houses. I used to pray for possessions. I used to pray for peace and pray for joy. But as I've grown, I became to understand that if I can move to a place where I can hear him, everything else falls in place. Because if I can hear him, favor will come. If I can hear him, money will come. If I can hear him, relationships will come. If I can hear him, peace will come. I've got to be able to hear. I came by to tell you this morning that softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling. Can you hear? I came by to tell you that the day you hear his voice, harden not your heart. Can you hear? I came by to tell you that my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. Can you hear? I came by to tell you, behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and dine with him and him with me. Can you hear? I came by to tell you, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. Can you hear? Hath you not known? Have you not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the end of the earth, neither faints nor is he weary. His understanding is unsearchable. Can you hear? I came to tell you, I heard the voice of Jesus say, come unto me and rest. Can you hear? I came by to tell you, I've come to the garden alone, yes, while the dew is still on the roses. And the voice that I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. Then he said he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me that I'm his own. Can you hear? Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? And how shall they preach unless they are sent? As is it written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah says, Lord, who hath believed our report? So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. You've got to be able to hear. God has a mission for us. God has a call for us, and then we must lay our ears to the breast of the Lord to hear what it is he's saying. We've come too far to turn around, and he did not bring us this far to leave us today. Can you hear? One of my pastor friends shared this story with me. I'm going to share it with you. He had taken his sons to Disney World. And when they went to Disney World, you have to understand that he has a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. And they go to Disney World, guys' day out, if you will. Just them, him and the boys. And they go to Space Mountain. And the 10-year-old wants to ride Space Mountain. The 5-year-old, small. But he says, if y'all going to ride, I'm going to ride. Now, mind you, my friend is not a roller coaster person. So he's not really with this, but they work on him to the point he says, okay. Now, what you have to understand is Space Mountain is a fast ride. It takes you through the dark.